Have you ever been to the grocery store and seen a beautiful pumpkin and thought, I want to make a pumpkin pie, but that seems like too much work? It's not, and today we're going to show you how to do it. Hi, welcome to Cake Mom. I'm Abby, and on this channel I share with you guys some of my favorite tips and techniques as well as recipes to help you with your home baking projects. If you're new or haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel and hitting that notifications bell so that you can see when I post my next video. Now, I love that recipe on the back of the Libby's pie pumpkin can. I use that pumpkin pie recipe every year, but today I was given this beautiful pumpkin from my aunt's garden, and I thought, what better thing to do with it than a fabulous pumpkin pie. So let's get started. What you will need is a good pie pumpkin. This is a special kind of pumpkin that is good for pumpkin pies. So if you're going to a farmer's market or even a grocery store, go ask someone there what pumpkin would be the best for a pie, because this is a sweet pumpkin. That's what we're going for. So you're gonna need a knife, a bowl, a spoon, and a cookie sheet to roast this pumpkin. Go ahead and preheat your oven to 375 degrees, and we're going to cut this open and clean out the guts. Something to keep in mind when you're cutting this pumpkin in half is don't try to cut through the stem, because the stem is very hard and you'll probably end up chopping a finger off. So start at one side of the stem, cut around the pumpkin, and then just tear it open at the stem so that you don't chop any limbs off. So the guts of the pumpkin, the seeds and the pith, you can't really use the foamy part, but you can clean the seeds off and roast those separately if you like pumpkin seeds. Roast them with olive oil and salt and pepper or whatever seasoning you like. Delicious snack. To roast our pie pumpkin, we want to turn it upside down on a cookie sheet. This will help steam the guts without making it too wet. You can steam your pumpkin. There are recipes out there for that. I personally find that that makes the pumpkin puree too wet for your pumpkin pie, and I don't like a soggy pie. So I like to roast my pumpkin. So roast it like this at 375 degrees for about 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, depending on the size of your pumpkin and your oven. You just want the guts of this to be nice and soft so that you can scoop them out and puree them. So while your pumpkin is roasting, you're gonna wanna go ahead and make your pie crust, because this has to chill before you can make your pie. So this recipe is an easy butter crust recipe. No shortening in this one. You can add shortening if that's your preference. I'm just doing butter. So it's 4 ingredients, and as always, the recipe will be in the description below, but here's everything you will need. Unbleached all-purpose flour, ice water, butter, and salt. So I like to do my crust in a blender or food processor because it makes everything come together really fast. You can also do this by hand if you'd like to. So take your blender or food processor and add flour and salt.
I didn't make a mess.
And now you're just gonna pulse that really quick just to combine those 2 ingredients. Now you want your butter to be ice cold. You can even stick it in the freezer for a few minutes just to make sure it is completely cold. And you're going to add this in about 3 parts. As you can see, I've diced it into little cubes to make it blend up better. So add about 1/3 of those in and try to spread them out kind of evenly. And now you're just going to pulse that just a couple times and then add some more butter. And do that 2 more times. Now you're going to add your ice water in, about 2 tablespoons at a time. You're probably gonna need about 1/4 cup of ice water, but it is better to add less and add more later than to add too much, because it is much harder to get your dough back after you've added too much water. So what you're looking for with your finished dough is a not very sticky but completely come together dough. It's going to be soft but very workable. Now you want to dump this onto a lightly floured surface, and you don't want to work it too much at this point, so just kind of shape it into a disc is what we're going for. So this in plastic wrap and refrigerate it for at least 30 minutes, possibly an hour. And then we're gonna roll it out and put it in our pie shell. So my pumpkin has finished roasting, and before we can make our pie filling, we need to make our pureed pumpkin. So I have cooled this off enough to work with it. Now when I get it out of the oven, I go ahead and flip it upside down so all that steam will release and not make my pumpkin too soggy. Now you're gonna need some kind of a food processor or blender to puree your pumpkin. So we're just gonna scoop out the insides, throw it in here, and blend it up really good to start with. So now you want to pass that puree through a fine sieve or a food mill if you have one of those, just to catch any bits of the pumpkin shell that might have gotten caught when you were scooping out the meat, and to make sure that you have a super smooth final product. You're going to need 2 cups of this puree for your pie, so go ahead and measure that out. The rest of it you can either refrigerate or freeze for use in another baked good or soup, or whatever you want to use your pumpkin for. So now we're going to mix up our filling for the pumpkin pie. As always, recipes down below, but here's everything you will need. 2 cups of pumpkin, heavy whipping cream, eggs, sugar, brown sugar, pumpkin pie spice, salt, and vanilla. We'll start with mixing our pumpkin, our sugar and brown sugar, and our eggs. Now mix it up. So our pie dough has chilled, and now we're going to roll it out and put it into our pie pan. So you want a little bit of flour on your surface. And you want some on top too.
Awesome.
The way to keep your pie dough a circle is to actually turn the dough rather than trying to turn your rolling pin. So start in the middle of your dough and work out, and then work towards you, and then turn your dough and keep doing that to make sure it's a circle, and it keeps it from sticking to your board, which is great. Once your pie dough has reached about 3 inches larger than your pie dish itself, you can roll it onto the rolling pin and then gently lay it over top of your pan. You'll want to make sure it is completely pressed into the pan with no air gaps, and then we will trim it and make sure that we crimp the edges of the pie so that it's beautiful. All right, there it is, pumpkin pie from a fresh pumpkin. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you might really like one of my other pies over here, this vegan lemon meringue pie. Go check it out, delicious, fun recipe. And if you haven't yet, please give this video a thumbs up, comment below because we want to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe and that notifications bell so that you can see when I post my next video. Have a great one.